Hi, my dear students. We have already learned about the reasons which led to the revolutions across the world in modern period. Today, we are going to learn the American War of Independence. See, you maybe listened one slogan that is no taxation without representation. Have you heard that one? No taxation without representation. It was the slogan which was framed by James Otis. Can you say what was the demand of American people by raising this slogan, no taxation without representation? The American people demanded that they need to get representation in their government. And the second one is, if there is no representation in the government, that is anti-people one. And the third one, they were not ready to pay tax without representation in the government. This was the main demand which meant by this slogan. See, now we are just going to learn about the background of the War of Independence of America, or the circumstances which led to a revolution in America. As we learned, the American history said that in 1498, Columbus has traveled, one of the Spanish government sailor, he has sailed to American continent. He reached in the eastern coast of America in 1498. He found a lots of people there. Actually, he was started to India, but he thought he reached in India. He called the indigenous people in the land as Red Indians. Then on the 16th century onwards, the Europeans came to American continent. Then the earlier colonies in America, it was established by a group of people who were exiled from England to America by the King of England. They were established the colonies at first in American continent. Then they captured the land and fiefs of the American indigenous people. After that, in 18th century, then in the 18th century, the England had made 13 colonies in eastern coast of American continent. Can you say which are the colonies? Please listen. They are New Jersey, New Hampshire, New York, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Virginia, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Delaware, and Maryland. These were the 13 colonies which made by England in the American continent. What was the aim of the Europeans when they started to American continent? Their main aim was to exploit the natural resources from the American continent. In the textbook, we listened word that the Pilgrim Fathers. Who were the Pilgrim Fathers? We already told you that some of the English people had made colonies in the 17th century in American continent who were exiled because of the religious persecution by the English king. They were known as Pilgrim Fathers. See, now we are going to learn about the different reasons for the American revolutions. We can divide the reasons into four. Mainly, we can divide the reasons for the American Revolution or the War of American Independence into four. The first one is economic causes. The second one is political causes. And the third one is social, then the sudden reasons. See, the economic reasons are, we can say the main reason was the mercantilism or the mercantilist laws were the main reasons for the War of American Independence. So you just think about what is mercantilism? Mercantilism is the policy of British merchants. It is the policy of merchants. Or we can say that mercantilism is the policy of British merchants with the approval of their motherland. Here it says that the motherland, whose motherland is that? It is the motherland of Americans. Why England is called as Americans' motherland? That is, we already told that a group of people who were exiled from England to America in the 17th century. So the Americans are people who came from England in the 17th century. That's why this England is known as the motherland of America. So here the mercantilism is the main reason. That is means the British merchants considered the American continent as a land for their raw materials for their industries and commerce. At the same time, they considered this land as the market for their products. Two reasons we tell about belongs to this mercantilism. The first one, American continent was the land for the source of raw materials for the British industries, and the second one was to sell their products. They considered the American continent as the market. In accordance of this mercantilism, the England had implemented several laws in America. Which are they? These laws are known as mercantilist laws. So we can say the mercantilist law is the laws which is implemented by England as the part of mercantilism. See, the mercantilist laws are, the first one, the goods to and from the colonies must be carried only in British ships or built in the British colonies. And the second one is the products like sugar, wool, cotton, tobacco, etc. could only be exported to England. And the third one is the British stamp must be affixed on all legal newspapers, pamphlet, license, etc. And another law was the colonies must be provide food and quarters for the British troops which were maintained in the colonies. And the last one, the import tax must be paid for the import of tea, glass and paper. These were the main laws which is implemented as part of mercantilist laws. As the result of these mercantilist laws in America, there had fired up great protests. Especially the British government levied high tax on tea. What happened in America? When the British government imposed high tax, people had entered into a ship which was boarded at at Boston Harbor on 16th December 1773. These people were disguised like red Indians. That means these people were changed their dresses like red Indians, and they threw the 342 chests of tea or 342 boxes of tea into the sea. This incident is known as Boston Tea Party in the history of American Revolution. My dear students, now we are just going through the social reasons for the War of Independence of America. See, there had mainly two thinkers which influenced the American society well. The first one is John Locke. What was his ideology? He spread or propagated his ideology among the American people that everyone has some fundamental rights. No government has the right to suspend it. And the second one is Thomas Paine. What was the ideology of Thomas Paine? Thomas Paine propagated his ideology that there is something absurd in suppressing a continent. Here it means the continent means the North America, and be perpetually governed by a foreign power, by England. That means no continent has right to suppress any other continent. Means the North America, the England has no right to suppress the America. That was main two thinkers, John Locke and Thomas Paine. The ideologies of these thinkers has stimulated the American people to raise their hands against the autocratic rule. The ideologies of these thinkers stimulated the American people to protest against the British government in American continent. It is led to the protest. The protest was, or the struggle was known as the War of Independence of America. My dear students, now we are going to discuss about the political reasons for the American War of Independence. What were the political reasons for the American War of Independence? We are just going through the steps which led to the American War of Independence. The first one is the first Continental Congress. See, to protest against the rule implemented by the British government, the whole delegates from the 13 colonies were decided to meet together at Philadelphia. The whole delegates were met together at Philadelphia except the Georgia. And the Congress has decided to submit a petition to the British king. What was the content of the petition? The first one was the revocation of all rules and regulations implemented on industry and commerce in America. And the second one was not implement any kind of tax without the approval of the American people. These were the main content of the petition which they are submitted to the King of England. What was the result of this petition? The British king has rejected the petition. At the same time, he sent the military to America and suppressed the American people. It was the reason to break out the war in between America and England. Then, in 1775, they were gathered at Philadelphia again. That is known as the Second Continental Congress. In the Second Continental Congress, the delegates were elected George Washington as the commander-in-chief of the Continental Army. And one of the main things which led to the American War of Independence was a small pamphlet which was spread among the American people. The pamphlet is known as Common Sense. Who was framed this pamphlet? It was by Thomas Paine. Thomas Paine's Common Sense declared that it was wise to the Americans to break the ties with England or the British people. We can say that through the Common Sense, Thomas Paine propagated his idea that it is the intellectual decision for the American people to break the chain, all relations with the England. So these ideologies or the pamphlet has got a great influence among the American people. They started to fight against the British government together. My dear students, what was the result of this Continental Congress? After the Continental Congress, on 4th July 1776, the American Continental Congress has issued the famous Declaration of Independence. Who were prepared this Declaration of Independence for America? It was prepared by Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson. They were prepared this Declaration of Independence for American continent. And the war is entered in 1781. And the whole 13 colonies had got their independence with the Paris Treaty in 1783. By the Paris Treaty, the England has ratified the independence of all 13 colonies in America. Then they framed a constitution for America. The Constitution Convention, which is held in Philadelphia under the leadership of James Madison, had framed a constitution for America. After that, George Washington has elected as the first president of United States of America. That means George Washington has elected the first president of United States of America on the basis of the Constitution which is prepared by James Madison. My dear students, now we are just going through how the American War of Independence is influenced all other later history, all other later struggles in the world. See, the first one is gave directions and motivations to the later freedom struggles and revolutions all over the world. The second one is guided human rights activities. And the third one put forward the concept of a republican form of government. And the fourth one is it prepared the first written constitution. And the next one is it contributed to the concept of a federal system that assured freedom and authority of states in the union. These are the or points how the American revolutions influenced the later struggles in the world.